Hey everyone, so this is the intro to basically all things structure that we use within the Fractal Markets Premium Discord server and membership program. So I just want to talk about basically the main types of structure that we sort of utilize within our very specific strategy. And the key points that I want to talk about are going to be swing structure, internal structure, and substructure, and essentially what they mean to us and how we sort of identify what they are and what they do in relation to how we trade. So the first one I want to start with is swing structure, which is arguably the most important one. Typically what we'd like to do is look at our swing structure on multi-time frame to be able to correlate what all these things mean to get down into an entry model system. So what I'll do is I'll just talk about this a little bit more vague and kind of give you an interpretation of what it is that we look at for swing points. And furthermore, we'll look at the other components of structure and what they mean. So obviously in this specific schematic, what we're looking at is basically a bullish structure of some sort. So if we were to assume that, let's say this was a 4-hour leg, we hit a high point, we essentially break down. The theory is that we're not going to break the most recent swing low, which is obviously not drawn in here, but we'll assume that this is the low point. We come back down and essentially we come back down into the lowest point. And then once we essentially break within our internal area, we start to see this as what we know as like an order flow shift. And basically what we're looking for here is that this new low would essentially take out this high point, which is the swing high. Once this is broken, so the second that we break and close above this region on whatever respected time frame that we're using, we're essentially deeming this as the new higher low or the swing point that should not be breached along with this bullish schematic. So the theory is that now that we put in the new higher high, we should not break this low down here. And then basically we are expecting that the next area to get broken would be here once we get confirmations within internal structure. So now what I want to do is talk a little bit about internal structure and how we use it to kind of interpret what the next move in the market is. So as mentioned, we get the low, we get the high, we come down in, we break up, we break down, and you can see that we have bearish internal structure that happens within here. So the theory here is that once we essentially break an internal structure point or an internal swing point, because technically on a 15-minute, so if this was a 4-hour leg, the idea is that if this is a 15-minute swing point that sits right here, this is now a 15-minute swing point here, swing point here, swing point here, we would consider a supply failure that rests at this level, which would shift our structure into a bullish 15-minute pro trend structure to be able to solidify that we are in fact creating a new high at some point to basically take out this swing structure up here. So just basically how we use this to keep this in the simplest terms possible is that we use internal structure to basically be able to paint the picture that supply areas are failing or structure levels are failing, which creates a potential for a new strong low, of course depending on where it happens in relation to the higher time frame swing point leg. But the theory is that once internal structure starts to break, we should start to look for order flow to switch into the pro trend direction. The last one is basically substructure, which is essentially it doesn't break anything to the left hand side. It's just basically an internal break of structure going down into our leg, and then a substructure break would be basically this level right here, which does not break an internal structure level, but it breaks a structure underneath that level, so we call this substructure. So just to kind of calibrate this conversation, we'll start over with substructure. Substructure is the lowest tier in structure. it doesn't really hold a whole lot of significance unless we are trading counter trend. Obviously, if we break a substructure leg, we would look to trade within the premium of this leg to be able to trade this down into these levels where we would potentially look for a pro trend move. So substructure is usually the first sign or the very first sign of a potential order flow shift or a order flow continuation when it is counter trend. So order flow shift when we're going into a pro trend direction, and then obviously an order flow continuation when we are trading counter trend. What else do we have here? So it doesn't break anything in the previous leg. So you'll notice that in the previous leg over here, we're not breaking anything. We're not breaking anything. Obviously, the previous leg of structure is sitting within here and here. So it doesn't actually break anything, but it shows bullish intention. And then that gets confirmed by internal structure, which leads me into talking about internal structure and how we kind of define it. So internal structure is broken within the larger price leg between swing points. This is where we start to see a realignment in structure / an order flow shift. So again, we kind of briefly talked about this already, but when internal structure breaks at an internal swing point is what we like to call it within fractal markets. It basically, once this breaks, the theory is that we've created that new bullish intention in the market to be able to consider starting to look for that bullish confirmation entry within here. And then furthermore, though, obviously the final and most important piece of structure that we have is the swing structure, which is what we use to determine higher time frame order flow trend. So bullish example would be a higher high and a higher low, creating a higher high, higher low with another higher high. So that's basically it for kind of breaking down how we interpret structure and the couple different kinds that we use. The one that I have left out, but I will just make a general mention of, we'll get into it a little bit further in later videos, is the change of character, which is kind of like a very loose term, I think, that is used amongst Smart Money Concepts communities and traders. What I like to look at is more of an order flow shift or an internal structure break. So we don't necessarily look at changes of character. What we like to see is a break of substructure followed by an abrupt break in internal structure, which would solidify our order flow shift in the general direction that we're looking to trade alongside higher time frame.